Day of the Commission for the farewell of the Chief Commissioner Beech. Good morning. On behalf of my colleagues and myself, welcome to this special sitting of the Commission to mark the retirement of Chief Commissioner Anthony Richard Beech. I extend a special welcome to Chief Commissioner Beech's wife, Dr. Gail Phillips, to his daughters Helen and Shauna and son-in-law Killian, his sister Leslie and brother-in-law Vic, his niece Julianne, to Kathy Digwood and Claire and Miranda, to Ron Gordon and Renisha Walensky and other family and friends. I also acknowledge and welcome those at the bar table, Mr Paul Miles, MLA, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Commerce on behalf of the Minister, Ms Meredith Hammett on behalf of Unions WA, Mr Paul Moss on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Western Australia, and Mr Nicholas Ellery on behalf of the Law Society. It's also a delight to have with us their Honours Justice Renee Lemierre and Justice Michael Corboy. I understand that Justice Corboy is a good source of information regarding Chief Commissioner Beech's undergraduate days, but we'll say no more about that. I also extend a warm welcome to former members of this Commission, President Mr Peter Sharkey, Acting President Mark Ritter SC, Chief Commissioners Mr Bruce Collier AO and Mr Bill Coleman AO, Senior Commissioner Mr Jack Greger and Commissioners Mr Owen Salmon, Dr Sally Corley, Mr Steve Wood and Ms Stephanie Mayman, and to former Registrar John Sperling. I note with pleasure too the presence of His Honour Joe Cicchini, Fair Work Commissioners, Deputy President Binet, Commissioners Williams and Clogan and former Deputy President McCarthy. Welcome to all those present and to those watching on the web. This is a very special occasion for Chief Commissioner Beech, but it's also an historic event in the life of this Commission, a tribunal of more than 100 years standing, that its longest serving member and Chief Commissioner of 12 years is retiring. Chief Commissioner Beech was first appointed as a Commissioner nearly 28 years ago and was Senior Commissioner for 2.5 years and then appointed as Chief Commissioner from the 1st of December 2004. For a period he had a dual appointment with as the Deputy President of the Australian Industrial Relations Commission. Chief Commissioner Beech is steeped in industrial relations. He is the son of Les Beech, a prominent gentleman of the union movement of this state. He is one of the generation of university graduates who entered the union movement in the early 1970s. He has a Bachelor of Economics and a Bachelor of Laws degrees from the University of WA. He became the leading advocate within the union movement and immediately prior to appointment to the Commission was Assistant Secretary of what I knew then as the MISOs, where I first encountered him, and President of the Trades and Labour Council. During his tenure as a member of the Commission, he has dealt with the broadest range of industries. He's known for his integrity, cool head, good grace and fairness. He has conciliated and arbitrated all sorts of disputes, including one where he required train drivers to shave off their beards. Chief Commissioner Beech's stewardship of the Commission has included a time of significant change in the industrial landscape. This includes arguably the most significant for the Commission's jurisdiction, the period following work choices legislation in 2006, which was a time of great uncertainty and challenge. He has been a tireless champion of the Commission. It is due in no small part to his personal skills and his involvement in promoting the Commission's role as a mediator under the Employment Disputes Resolution Act 2008 that a number of national system employers and unions still come to this Commission for mediation. One of the challenges faced by many courts and tribunals is how to meet the needs of and deal with self-represented litigants. Chief Commissioner Beech has established a pro bono scheme to assist unrepresented litigants in matters before the Commission, making the Commission more accessible to them and making it easier for the Commission to deal with them. Due to his interest in technology, the Commission is one of the earliest of Australian courts and tribunals to webcast proceedings, with the annual state wage case hearing being webcast since 2006. That love of technology has combined with his dedication and his enthusiasm for his role. He could enjoy holidays on the beach in the Greek Isles and still check the Commission's website for court lists and read the decisions that it issued. There was one occasion where he was on Norfolk Island when internet and mobile phone access were very limited. Bad weather delayed his return to civilisation, and I take that as being to internet access. I understand he nearly needed sedation to overcome the distress of not being in touch with the Commission at all times. I suspect too that Gail might request that his access to the Commission's website be blocked fairly soon. Chief Commissioner Beech has spent considerable time helping students learn about the Commission and about industrial relations. He has lectured and has provided law and economics students in particular with work experience under his personal guidance. He's been a keen supporter of the Industrial Relations Society of Western Australia. His sense of fairness and good humour were on full display at the last annual general meeting, when in his capacity as returning officer, he disallowed the candidacy of a particular candidate for the election to the committee of the Society. But he helped that member to draft the resolution for the member's challenge to his own ruling. When the motion was put to the meeting, I'm sure you know who prevailed. Chief Commissioner Beech, you leave the Commission in a good state of health and organisation. We will greatly miss you, your leadership, advice and good humour. So while we're here to celebrate with you, there's also some sadness at losing our highly esteemed colleague and friend. We wish you many clear, crisp mornings for rowing on the river and the very best of health and happiness for your retirement.
Thank you very much.
Mr Paul Miles.
Thank you, and it does please me to appear on this side of the Commission and to represent my Minister for you, and also who was unable to attend through other events up at Parliament House. And also, it's a great privilege for me as the Parliamentary Secretary to be able to do that, and for me as the Parliamentary Secretary to be able to do that, and to come here not just to show my appreciation, my Minister's appreciation, but also the Government's appreciation, and give you best wishes to you, Chief, on your retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Miles.
The Commission has convened a special sitting to farewell the longest-serving member who has had the inevitable and distinguished career in labour relations spanning more than 4 decades. Chief Commissioner Beech was first appointed as Commissioner in September of 1988. He went on to appoint the Senior Commissioner in March of 2002 before becoming Chief Commissioner in December of 2004. Prior to being appointed to the Commission, the Chief Commissioner worked for the union movement, serving as an industrial officer for several unions and then the Assistant Secretary of the then Federated Miscellaneous Workers Union. He was also President of the then Trades and Labour Council from 1987 to 1988. During this 28-year tenure of the Commission, the Chief Commissioner has established himself as one of the most respected and distinguished industrial relations practitioners in WA, and has developed a reputation as a highly effective mediator whose services are regularly sought after. While the list of functions that the Chief Commissioner has performed is far too extensive to recite in full, some of the roles he has undertaken include serving on the National Occupational Health and Safety Commission, chairing the Government School Teachers Tribunal, performing the role of the Public Service Arbitrator, and chairing the Railways Classification Board. That must be where the whiskers come in. The Chief Commissioner has also dealt with industrial matters covering the vast array of industries, including the building, rail, transport, maritime, security, cleaning, health and prisons industries. His career with the Commission has coincided with some of the most significant changes in the history of the WA industrial relations system. Changes to the wage setting procedures, to the formal adoption of enterprise bargaining, to the introduction of the statutory minimum conditions of employment and to the growth of mediation services has all transformed the industrial relations landscape in this state. And of course, changes to the jurisdiction of the Commission itself as the result of the Commonwealth legislation have significantly altered the scope and nature of the Commission's business. Despite being unable to deal with many matters concerning employers or employees in the federal jurisdiction, the Commission has adopted to those changes and have imposed developing new or enhanced services such as alternative dispute resolution. Some of these services are still provided to the trading or financial corporations today, enhancing the value of the Commission's operations. The Commission continues to play a key role in conducting the annual state wage case in WA, and the Chief Commissioner has overseen a process in the exemplary manner for many years, and indeed since he was first appointed, the minimum adult wage has tripled in value, increasing from $229.60 per week in 1988 to $679.90 per week today. It is a credit to the Chief Commissioner and the members of the Commission that in spite of all the changes that have taken place over the years, the Commission has maintained a strong, independent and contemporary role in the labour relations framework and continues to be held in high regard. A further hallmark of the Chief Commissioner's passion for labour relations has been his ongoing involvement in the Industrial Relations Society of WA, as well as lecturing and supervising university students in advocacy and negotiation. The Chief Commissioner has also gone to considerable effort to make the Commission accessible and user-friendly for its clients. This is demonstrated through the Commission's embrace of modern communications, including the use of video conference technology, the live streaming of significant hearings on the internet, and the Chief Commissioner himself appearing in various online videos explaining the role and functions of the Commission. Chief Commissioner Beech's extensive knowledge and experience within the labour relations system and its governing legislation has been highly valued by the government and the practitioners alike, and his retirement will be greatly lost to that system. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will close off. In closing, I forgot the next page. In closing, the Minister for Commerce, my Minister, would like to sincerely thank you personally, Mr Beech, for your tireless dedication to the important role of the Commission, as in maintaining the employment standards of WA employers most of all, and I'm sure that everyone will agree that he is extremely well respected and admired by all those who have come before you, and well known for his formidable knowledge and sincere humour. The Minister and I both wish you very well in your retirement, and we thank you for your many years of service to WA.
Ms Hammett.
Thank you. Can I begin by acknowledging Chief Commissioner Beech, also Acting Senior Commissioner Scott, Acting President Smith, other members of the Commission and the distinguished guests that join us here today. It is a great honour to rise on behalf of Unions WA and the working people of this state to address the Commission on this very special occasion. And I am delighted and perhaps a little saddened to have this unique opportunity, but delighted to express the opportunity or express our appreciation for your contribution to this very important institution, but to the working people of this state as well. Chief Commissioner, you have had an extended and distinguished service in the field of industrial relations, spanning more than 4 decades. And while many of us at this table here this morning may have still been in nappies, or perhaps only recently out of them, you started work as an industrial officer with what was then called the Federated Engine Drivers and Firemen's Union in 1973. And I understand you made your first appearance in this commission in July of that same year. And in preparing my comments for today, I spent some time reflecting on what Australian work and society must have been like as you rose in this commission to make your first appearance. I note that average wages were $7,600 per year, and that the cost of a home on average in WA was a mere $18,800. We recall that a sprightly Gough Whitlam had only just become Prime Minister, And we were very excited generally with newfangled technology like video recorders, which had only just been released. And as you rose to make that first appearance in the Commission in 1973, of course, the nature of work was very different indeed. And the WA economy and our society here was also fundamentally different. Over 15 years in the union movement, you worked for the union I've already mentioned, but also the Electrical Trades Union and what was known as the Miscellaneous Workers Union, or the MISOs, where you were an Assistant Secretary. You were so esteemed by the wider union movement that you held the office of President of the Trades and Labour Council and also represented the TLC in many test cases, including the state wage case. However, in 1988 you were called to serve more broadly the state of Western Australia, and you left the trade union movement to work in this institution as a commissioner. And again, I reflect that in 1988 many things were different about the world of work and our society. Average wages had increased, but were still just an annual salary of $24,000 a year. Mobile phones were the technology of the day when you came to this commission, though at a cost of over $5,000 each. It's unlikely that many of them were in the hands of industrial relations practitioners at the time. And after extensive experience as a commissioner and also completing your law degree, you were appointed a senior commissioner in 2002 and then a chief commissioner in 2004. Chief Commissioner, yours has been a career that spanned 4 decades of dramatic changes in work, in society and in the economy. And since 1988, you have applied your wisdom and judgment to the work of this Commission, while all-round enormous change has occurred. Technological change, first heralded by VCRs and mobile phones, has continued at a record pace. And I think we understand as we gather here today that those new technologies have brought new jobs, new workplaces and new areas of contested terrain between employers and employees, and that those areas are not, that's a work in progress, that the technological change continues and will continue to transform work into the future. During your time at this Commission, you've witnessed significant change and restructuring in the WA economy, as we've moved from an economy based around mining, construction and manufacturing to one that's based increasingly on services of one kind or another. And it would, of course, be remiss of me not to mention that the other significant transformation that's occurred during your tenure is the increased numbers of women that are now in the workforce. And while I would say the quest for pay equity remains a work in progress and something we've probably been working on since you first rose in this Commission as a union advocate, there's no doubt that women's participation in the workforce has grown significantly. And that's brought with it enormous change in how, when and where work is performed, as workplaces have had to address the reality that increasingly all workers have family responsibilities and other commitments outside of the workplace. Industrial relations in particular, perhaps once known for its particularly masculine culture, can no longer considered to be so. I note that today women now make up more than half of all union members in Western Australia, and it's now women who are indeed a typical union member, if such a thing exists. Chief Commissioner, during all of these years of tumultuous change, and there have been substantial social, economic changes, but you have brought to this institution great wisdom, guidance and insight to its work. Throughout all of those monumental changes, you've demonstrated your commitment to remain overwhelmingly a respect in the broader community for the work of this institution. During such change, the Commission has been sustained by consensus between employers, unions and the government that our unique industrial relations system is essential to building a good society. And that consensus may have been under pressure due to legislative changes that have already been referred to, and by the substantial social and economic changes. But respect for this Commission has endured and performed its important work, always demonstrating its great value to the state, its great value to working people and its great value to employers. No doubt not all of your decisions have been agreed with, but as an institution, the Commission remains one of the most important vehicles for a fairer and more equal society. It's an institution that's withstood those great changes because I think it speaks about the sort of society that we want for Western Australia, and it speaks about a fair go for all. The Commission has evolved and you have played a significant and very positive part in that modern evolution. You've consistently demonstrated your commitment that the guiding principles of this Commission, that is, to determine matters before it based on equity, good conscience and the merits of the case, has always been the case, regardless of the broader context in which work has occurred. I know that for many in the union movement, our motivation and our satisfaction comes from knowing that the work that we do hopefully contributes to a better life for the working people that we represent. And if that's an aspiration that you have shared, then I think there can be no doubt that over your long and distinguished career, you've made a profound difference to the lives of so many working people in this state, and that is an achievement to be well satisfied with. Can I close by also wishing you well for your retirement? It is clearly well deserved after so many years of service. And I too want to wish you a retirement that is long, that is happy, and always finds the weathers favourable for rowing. Please, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Mr Moss.
Thank you. CCI is honoured to have the opportunity to farewell Chief Commissioner Beech as you retire from the bench. Since joining the Commission, there's been substantial changes to the state industrial relations system, which has redefined the role of the Commission and the manner in which both employers, employees and unions interact. First starting in 1993 with the Court Government reforms, and then again in 2002 with the changes established by the Gallop government. While both of these reforms have reshaped the role of the Commission, the greatest challenge in recent history has arisen out of the 2006 amendments to the federal legislation, which saw the bulk of the private sector transferred from the state to the national industrial relations system. However, under your stewardship, the WA Industrial Relations Commission has continued to retain its relevance and significance within the industrial relations community. And this has occurred not only through formal mechanisms such as the mediation services and role in resolving contractual benefits claims, but also the engagement that the Commission has had with the industrial relations community more broadly. Chief Commissioner Beech has been a strong active supporter of the Industrial Relations Society and have been more than happy to share your experience and your knowledge with others. CCI members have also benefited from this, and I'd like to take the opportunity to publicly thank yourself, Chief Commissioner, President Smith, Senior Commissioner Scott, for their support of CCI in recent years in agreeing to speak and participate in some of our events, and to take the opportunity to share the experiences of the Commission with the broader employer community as well. Chief Commissioner, through this engagement and your welcoming nature, you've added a personable nature to the Commission. And in doing so, you've helped make it part of the community, as distinct from a body sitting separate to it. You've also set a leading example of the attributes sought in a tribunal member. In sitting on the bench, Chief Commissioner, you're well known for your unbiased approach in dealing with matters, your firm hand in managing the proceedings before you, your genuine interest in the matters and the claims that you're judging upon, and your balanced approach in considering both practical and technical aspects of a claim. The obvious nature of these qualities has meant that you're equally well regarded by both the union and employment movements. The fact that Unions WA and CCI, who don't usually agree with each other on many matters, can jointly acknowledge the positive role that you have played as Chief Commissioner is a testament to the qualities that you have brought to this institution. On behalf of CCI, I would like to wish you all the best for the future and congratulate you, as well as the other members of the bench, your associates and the registry staff for the continuing contribution that the WA Industrial Relations Commission makes. If it pleases the Commission, CCI welcomes you to enjoy yourself now as you depart the bench and hopefully lots more rowing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Moss. Mr Ellery.
Thank you. May it please the Commission, it's a great privilege for me to appear today on behalf of the West Australian legal profession through the Law Society to farewell you, Chief Commissioner Beech. Chief Commissioner Beech, I looked around the packed house before you arrived, and I thought, I'm probably not the only one here who, as a fairly fresh-faced young advocate, first appeared before you. In my case, more than 20 years ago, I'd concede, less than 30 I would stay, however. And nervously worked my way through the intricacies of the then industrial relations legislation before you in conciliations and arbitrations. And I forget what all the first cases were, but I certainly recall that you treated me, as you treated all advocates, with respect, with fairness, with courtesy, you very quickly worked out what were my strong points, what were my weak points, and disposed of those very quickly. But everybody left the conciliation or the arbitration with the perception and the view that they had been treated fairly, they had been heard, and that you had properly and fairly considered the issues before you. And that was a positive experience for new advocates, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who's had the exact same experience. Almost 30 years of outstanding service to the people of our state. It's a towering achievement, Chief Commissioner, and one to be very proud of. Being the last of the four speakers, I can skip some of the points I was going to make because they've already been acknowledged previously. But it's worth just highlighting a few things that you've dealt with or presided over in your time in the Commission. Of course, you've dealt with numerous minimum wage cases, and as we've heard already, the nature of work and the nature of the value of work has changed enormously over the years, and you've presided over those often contentious and difficult issues with fairness and with a sense of justice. Of course, you've dealt with a whole range of issues in challenging industries, particularly some of the major iron ore and oil and gas developments in the north of the state, vital developments to our economy and to the well-being of the people of Western Australia. And of course, it was vital that industrial matters and disputes in those projects were dealt with fairly and well, and you had a significant role in many of those matters over the years. And of course, a whole range of matters in all different industries throughout the whole breadth of the West Australian economy. So from that list, it's plain to see that there's few parts of Western Australian industry or society at large that haven't in some way intersected with industrial relations and which you have not in some way had a guiding hand in relation to. And as has been acknowledged by the other speakers, it's clear that whatever type of matter has come before you, and however experienced or inexperienced the advocates were who argued the matters, you've always maintained the impartiality and dedication that is integral to ensuring the enduring presence and success of the Commission as a vital arbiter within our industrial relations system. Those of us who practice in the industrial relations area know one of the, I guess, interesting and unique features of it is that the parties may have their disputes, they may have arbitrations, they may have their differences, but the employees will still turn up to work for the same employer the next day. The advocates, such as Mr Moss and Ms Hammett from the Unions WA, will continue to deal with each other, and so mutual respect and a sense of fairness is very important in the way all those parties are dealt with in this tribunal and in others. And the way you've conducted the matters that have come before you have always supported those values and left parties with that sense, which is very important. Of course, industrial relations has seen enormous change over the years, as we've already heard, and there's been governments of different persuasions that have enacted in WA their own different reforms. There's many legal practitioners who make a point of voting for the opposition, whichever the opposition is, because if there's a change of government, there's a change of laws and there's more activity. No matter the government of the day, you have, Chief Commissioner, maintained the independence of the Commission and ensure that the Commission is discharged its duty fairly and is seen to discharge its duty fairly and to judge each case on its merits in a fair way. So, Chief Commissioner Beech, some 20-something years after I first appeared before you, it's a great privilege to do so on your last appearance as a member of this tribunal, to extend my sincere thanks on behalf of the legal profession and other industrial relations practitioners throughout the state, and to wish you a very successful and fruitful retirement. May it please the Commission. Thank you very much.
Chief Commissioner.
Can I thank you very much for attending? There's a larger crowd than I had anticipated. When I attended the farewell sitting of President Jeff Judicher of the Fair Work Commission a few years ago in Melbourne, I noted that he thanked those appearing for kindly overstating his achievements and tactfully omitting to mention his shortcomings. And I am delighted that that convention has been honoured here as well in the comments that have been made. Can I thank you most sincerely, Mr. Miles? My compliments to the Minister. I understand why he can't be here. I chose an inauspicious day from his point of view, but I thank him for his courtesies towards me and the issues that I've dealt with. And both Ms Hammett, Mr Miles and Mr Ellery, I've known each of you for some time in one way or another, and I value your comments, and I'm very, very grateful to you. And I also record here my thanks to those who have sent me emails and cards. It's very warming and somewhat humbling. it's difficult to see yourself how others see you, and I'm grateful to all of you for your comments, and perhaps slightly embarrassed as well. When I did say to my daughters that this is what it was going to be this morning, Helen said to me something like, "Grab it with both hands, Dad, it'll only happen once." As we were waiting outside before we came in, we could hear from the hubbub of you all this morning quite a bit of laughter, and one of my colleagues was unkind enough to say, "Look, Tony, they're happy to see you go." I have been fortunate because I have worked for the last 28 years in a job I love doing. I used to complain that weekends interrupted my work until my wife Gail told me that seeing as I spend the weekends with her, that's not very much of a compliment for her, and I stopped doing so. But it has been a job I love and a tribunal in which I've had an unshakable faith regarding its value to our community. There are a number of former members here this morning, and I asked for them to be invited, and I am very grateful they're here. They've played an important part in my time at the Commission, and I would like to acknowledge them. My strong faith began after I argued my first case in the Commission in July 1973, which was only 9 years after it had been formed in 1964 out of the old Court of Arbitration. And I presented it before Eric Kelly. I might interrupt myself to say that when I said something like this at another farewell a little time ago, the person introducing me said Commissioner Beech argued his first case in 1973, and then she stopped and turned to the audience and said, "But that was before many of you were born." And I took that as being another sign that it's time to go. My first appearance was before Eric Kelly, who with Don Court had been appointed in 1964. And Eric was invited this morning. He's been in email contact with me, and he regrets that he's not as mobile as he would used to be, but he's sent me his best wishes. And similarly, Don Court, who was also invited and was going to attend, but at the last minute, I think the logistics were a difficulty. I'm very grateful to them both for their compliments to me, I appeared before Eric and Don so many times in those early years in the early 70s that I was very impressed with their manner towards me as a young advocate. I hopefully have picked up some of the things that they have spoken, the manner in which they've treated me. It's been quite special to me then to mention here this morning this link back to 1964. Over the next 10 years or so, appearing not just before them, but then also before Bruce Collier, who is here today. And Bruce, I'm very pleased to see you here, and I'm very, very grateful that you're able to be here. I understand you came here with Bill, but I noticed that John Collier is here in the room as well, your son. And it's very nice for me to welcome a Collier Senior and Collier Junior in the room at the same time. Bruce was Commissioner, Senior Commissioner in Chief from 71 to 87, and can I thank you, Bruce, for your wise counsel to me from time to time when I've needed it. And of course, I've known John because until a few years ago, John worked in the registry of the Commission. Even now, I am impressed by Eric, Don and Bruce and their knowledge, their wisdom and their integrity in all of the matters that I had to deal with them in those early years. And I do hope that I've done justice to the high standard that they set, and I pay tribute to them, and they are largely responsible for the passion which I still have after 28 years. They did know me also as the son of Les Beech, as some of the others here as well, who also appeared before them, representing the Plumbers Union and the Building Trades Association and the Breweries Union. And on one or perhaps two occasions, I appeared with my father in the Commission, being called Beech Senior and Beech Junior, as I now do to Bruce and John. And I think that that's rather nice. I was as enthusiastic about my appointment in 1988 as Commissioners Emmanuel and Matthews are today, which I also think is nice. And after I was appointed, I leaned very heavily on my good friend Sally, who I can see here, who had been appointed a couple of years before me. And then also I learned a great deal from Bill, because Bill had been appointed to the Commission a few years before me. So I didn't appear before Bill much, but I worked with Bill a lot as Chief Commissioner. And I owe you a lot as well, Bill, and I thank you here for the assistance that you gave me from time to time, and the occasional lumpy times that they were, but I'm very grateful to you, and I want to say that here. Can I also mention Owen, who's here, Bob George, who spoke to me this morning. He was not able to be here. Gavin also, who's an apology, he's in the Eastern States. I'm talking about Gavin Fielding. Jack Regger, I haven't seen him. I know Jack's been invited. I hope that Jack is here. The time that Jack and I spent together as Chief and Senior is a source of a great deal of pleasure to me. And then also Peter Sharkey as President. He and I share this love of military history, and we've had some very laughable telephone calls from time to time as we spoke irreverently about some of the matters that came before us. And Peter, I'm very, very grateful to you. And also to those members here who have known me as Senior and Chief and who have worked with me. I can see Steve Wood is here, as is Stephanie, as is Mark Ritter, and I'm very, very grateful to you for being here. Each in your own way has assisted me, and I have sorely needed it from time to time, I know. From 2006, there was great uncertainty as to whether or not the State Commission would continue, and whether or not it was going to, and the discussions that we had, each of you in your own way gave me help and assistance at times when I needed it in those difficult times. I've maintained my enthusiasm, but I recognise also that the job in its own way is isolating and it can be lonely. And as Chief Commissioner, I attended regular meetings of the heads of tribunals, which is the Fair Work Commission and its predecessors, and the other state industrial tribunals. And I record here the support and assistance I had from those members of the heads of tribunal and the opportunity to discuss matters with them. Can I note my deep appreciation to Justice Jeff Judiger, who sent me an email this morning, and I thought it was very kind of him, and also Justice Ross, who telephoned me last night. Can I thank them for their friendship and support over the years as fellow heads of tribunal when I've needed it, and also during my all too short time as a Deputy President, a dual appointment in the Australian Industrial Relations Commission. I've always sought a close working relationship with the Federal Commission in its various guises, and one of my regrets is that I was never able to foster it in the later years, just due to the differences, I think, in legislation. But I am very pleased that Deputy President Melanie Binet, Commissioner Bruce Williams and Danny Clogan are here, and I also see Brendan McCarthy in the audience, and I'm very pleased to see him as well. And again, I go back more years than it's polite to talk about. I don't think we've ever really agreed, Brendan, but there you go. I've been pleased in my time that each of the ministers with whom I've had to deal with, and there have been a number of them, have recognised the independence of the Commission from the government and its policies, and the confidence that they've had in the Commission can be seen by the decisions made to retain the Commission, and in the most recent amendments to the Act, where the obligation to observe government policy was only that, not to be an obligation to follow it, and that seemed to me to be a compliment to how the Commission was and is seen. And if I can use the language from the Yes Minister programs, we must be doing all right. I mentioned here too the professional relationship with the staff of Commerce. Kristen Berger is here, and I'm pleased that Lorraine Field and Cara Bruder are here. And Mr. Miles, you've mentioned some of the issues that they and I have discussed on many occasions. Can I thank in general terms the Commission staff over the many years that I've been here, and the very positive and constructive relationship I've had first with John Sperling, the Registrar, and now with Sue Bastian, the Registrar, and I thank them both before you all. I've had a number of associates over the years, but for the purposes of this morning, it has to be Janine, my associate for the last 11 years, much more than an associate because of the many administrative roles that the Chief Commissioner plays. It's not just being in court and not coming into court and so on, but other administrative matters as well. Janine comes into her own in such circumstances, including dealing with the many emails when I was returning officer for the Industrial Relations Society, and I'm grateful to observe that there are times when I wasn't quite sure who was the returning officer. It was either Janine or me, and I could never quite work out which one it was. So Janine, I thank you here before you all for your honesty and work ethic, your common sense, and for your assistance to me throughout the years. But all good things come to an end, and I am pleased to bid farewell from here in the presence of Gail and my two daughters, Helen, and her husband, Killian, and Shauna, and my sister and husband, Leslie and Vic, and her niece, Julianne. And it's important to acknowledge the family, because sometimes they don't see me for times on end, and I very rarely talk about what I do, but I'm pleased that they're here to hear this. And also some friends who've known me from some very early years at the University of WA, and who I still see on a regular basis, and whose friendship means a lot to me. Kathy Digwood, who's here with her daughters, Claire and Miranda, both of whom I see smiling at the back, who have been in here on work experience from time to time, and well remember them. And in fact, if I interrupt myself, I just remember, Julianne, that you came here on work experience once and locked the door so we couldn't get out of the courtroom. I'm pleased that I remembered that. Can I also then acknowledge Michael Corboy, who now must be referred to as His Honour Justice Corboy from the WA Supreme Court. But Michael, I'm very, very pleased that you're here. I'm delighted René Lemiere wanted to be here from my past as well. Now, His Honour René Lemiere, Justice of the Supreme Court of WA, he, Ray Andrutich, now Senior Assistant State Solicitor, we go back a long, long way to that university campus in the 70s. I knew David Jones back then, and Ken Traynor and Russell Allen probably just as long, even if not from that particular connection. And it's at times like this that I think one values the long friendships that we've had. It's been an enormous privilege to have been appointed to the Commission to deal with workplace disputes that we have in all workplaces. Most of us spend a substantial part of our lives in workplaces, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the insight into people's lives and their workplaces in the last 28 years. I hope I've done well, and I am heartened by your comments here today. It's true, I have lived by the mandate that one must decide matters according to equity, good conscience, and the substantial merits of the case. But I am grateful to Meredith Hammett for restating this on the last occasion she was here, when she said it's far more likely to be the important work of finding elegant solutions to the complex problems that we face, and I hope, Meredith, that some of my decisions meet that test as well. The last thing I want to refer to is to deal with the question that I'm asked about what I intend to do, and can I answer it this way? Most of you know that rowing is something of a passion for me. I came to it somewhat late in life, and I'm delighted to have here this morning my rowing partner of 18 years, Ron Gordon, and his partner, Renita, who both of us, Ron and I, happened to be of a similar build and were just thrown into a double scull together by the coach because we had similar physical size, and out of this has come this very enduring friendship. Ron has this excellent quality of having absolutely nothing whatever to do with industrial relations. And it's one of those reasons why I value the friendship, and I suspect that him hearing this morning about all of this other life that I have led is indeed a revelation to him, but it's pleasing to me that he's there. So nevertheless, Ron, I'm pleased that you're here. Can I conclude by thanking you all again for your comments? Ron, it's time we went rowing, and with that I conclude my comments.
The Commission is now adjourned.
Thank you.